going to say a couple of words. I think most people know who Amber is, but Amber, I met Amber, is she that one? Oh. So Amber, I met Amber when she was 2 weeks old, and I was at a friend's party, Ben and Veronica, and she was asleep on the bed, and I was watching a World Cup game in '98. Oh, it wasn't us, it was somebody else. But I brought Amber up for the first 5 years, and I see her as one of my children, my daughter. So Amber's going to say a couple of words.
Hello everyone. Hello. Throughout my life, James, you've been a huge inspiration. You've been there through me, through everything. Maze and I remember all the fun times we have had with you in Hampstead till now. In my opinion, I think tonight has been a great way to celebrate James's 50th. And I wish you a very happy birthday, James, and I'm so honoured to have you with me in my life.
So, I'm not going to speak for long. Do you want to say something? Okay. This is Katie.
Hello. You have to sing happy birthday. You've got no choice.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to James. Happy birthday to
So, I've got people who come from far and wide. Ariel today flew in from Chicago. It's a real name. And Ariel, sorry. And people from Bristol, Leicester, Shrewsbury, Malvern, NW3, West London, and all the way along the A3. I wanted to say a special few words about my mum, who's here, my late father. I can only imagine that as a child I must have been...
pain in the arse.
A bit... I used to cause a few surprises, and I wanted to apologise for a few of them, like my mum getting called by the police in Glasgow, who had arrested me for trying to get on a train without proper train fare. And then... They did, yes. Unlike most 14-year-olds, rather than doing a proper job, I decided that a good way to earn some money would be recording concerts and selling them on music fairs around the country, which was very lucrative. And my mum was always quite a lot. And my mum was always a bit alarmed with the large amounts of cash that I had. So it's very entrepreneurial, but also very illegal. After I got arrested, I decided not to do that anymore. I really did. Well, I cautioned. Told off a lot.
Didn't you have to leave the country, Dave?
No, not that time, no. I had left school with 3 O-levels, and that was a bit of a shock, I think, to my parents. So they said it would be a good idea to go back to college and retake my O-levels. I did this, but then I didn't really enjoy it that much, and I decided to leave. And I went with my good friend Viveka, who's here, to see her mum after I decided to quit college and got a right bollocking from her mother, who said this was ridiculous. My mum said, well, look, if you're going to leave college, you've got to get a job. So I looked in the paper and there was a great job offering to pay £20 a week. And I thought, well, that will be a start. And that was the beginning of my career selling double glazing, door to door. And I can only imagine as a parent the shock of having your son doing door-to-door sales and thinking this was brilliant. And it was particularly good because this particular company, it was all tax-free. We got paid cash at the end of the week. I probably can't admit that today, but anyway. So I did this for a few years. I worked for, I think, 5 different companies, and I think all of them went bust at different times. And you will see, my father was terribly proud of everything I did, and he actually took a picture of some of the windows that were sold. And my lasting memory of doing door-to-door sales was, for some reason, we decided that the best place to sell windows was in Wales. We went all over the country. We knocked council estates generally, and we were knocking the terraces in Wales. And basically, the problem was the miners' strike was on. So you had a situation, it was very binary. You had a miner, and they didn't buy anything, and if they weren't a miner, there was a good opportunity. Or when we were doing council houses, if the first question we'd ask is, are you the owner of this property? And if they weren't, we walked away, and if they were, there was an opportunity. And we could generally define opportunities by if they had a garden gnome. That always seemed to be a good sign. They also had stone cladding, and a number of other things that would make them likely punters for windows. So this was my kind of start in life. I then went travelling. I then met lots of people in America, and they'd all gone to college. So I phoned my dad up, and he couldn't believe it. I phoned him up and said, I want to go to college. So I came back, went to college. I then started to make some money by buying and selling records. And this started to take off, and I couldn't really see the point of carrying on doing my diploma in business studies. So I left again. And my parents very kindly let me run this from my bedroom. I had a fax machine, and therefore anyone who had a fax machine in 1986, they cost £2,000, and was a bona fide business. So I had deliveries being shipped in from around the world. I then realised there was a great opportunity because under the EU treaty, there were basically recordings that were over 20 years old were out of copyright in Italy and France and other places. So I thought, great opportunity, I will buy these, and there was all these fantastic recordings of Bob Dylan and the Beatles, etc. By this time I'd moved the business to a warehouse in Portishead, so I put that place on the map before the band. And I knew this probably wasn't a good thing, and I'd had a note through saying you shouldn't be doing this, and cease and desist order apparently. So I thought, well, and there's a few lawyers in here, so I thought, well, I'll ignore that, and whatever. And so I then had a call because I linked up to a mail order business, and I was in a fairly large warehouse to come to reception, and there was 5 men and 2 women in suits, and they said, are you James Bennett? And I said, yes. And they said, we don't believe you. And I said, well, I am. I said, well, do you own this business? I said, I do. I said, well, do you have a lawyer? I said, no. They said, well, you need to have a lawyer. I said, well, I haven't got one. I said, well, you better find one. So I called up the local solicitors, which is a small town outside Bristol, and the lady came along and said, apparently I've got to have a lawyer. And then she took me into the boardroom, which my partner had, and she started to shake. And I said, what's the problem? She said, you've just been served an Anton Pillar order. And I said, what's that? She said, well, I've only read about them on my course. But they really are serious. So apparently you can only get an Anton Pillar order if you go to the High Court. It's used in hugely complicated criminal cases. And Sledge had to crack a nut, and I was then discovered I'd been sued by John Lennon, deceased, Paul McCartney, and anyway, so I stopped doing that. I kind of got the message. And things didn't go particularly well after then, and so that was the end of that, and my friend Jeff embellished the story, but there was some elements of truth. I went into liquidation, and I went on holiday, and then there was a big hoo-ha about it all. I then was persuaded after doing my MBA by Jeff Lloyd to meet Andrew Goodman, and I went to work for his firm, an executive search firm in the tech sector, which was kind of how I got into the tech sector. I did that, I learnt a lot. It was a fantastic experience from Andrew and the team there. I then, much to my amazement, got hired by PW to head up marketing for them in Europe. I did that for a while. That wasn't such a good experience. I think I hadn't quite understood the difference between a small SME and PW. I then set up a business and worked very closely with Rachel, who's here. We had a lot of fun running conferences. It was really a sort of a business that was involved in having a great time, drinking an awful lot and partying a lot, and that seemed to attract a lot of very young people. I was older then, and we did good stuff. And then Tom came and rescued me after we had gone through a technology nuclear winter when the whole industry collapsed. So that was kind of my career, and then I joined EY, and I've had a fantastic time since then. So a few apologies to both my parents for giving them heebie-jeebies and having things happen to your son that you weren't quite expecting. But very, very blessed to have everyone here, and I'll just see if I've missed anything, and I shall introduce the band. So, and then the most important thing that happened in my life was Katie. Do you want to turn around, Katie? No, you can come up here too. Now, I was introduced to Charlotte on a blind date, and I was very, very fortunate to meet her. And then William came along soon after, and Katie came along soon after. And I've been very blessed to have Jonathan in my life and Amber, and we've got an absolutely fantastic family. So thank you very much to my lovely family. What are you going to say?
Hello. I did want, you know, that, did you think you really went to jail?
I didn't go to jail.
Then why were you saying it?
I just got arrested and then let off.
Did you get handcuffed?
No. Fantastic questions, and very appropriate ones. I think for me, the really, really important things is that all of my friends have stood by me. I've had some fantastic advice. Tony Clay, when I got very badly in arrears on my flat, and I said, well, I'll probably just give the keys back. And he said, James, that is not a good idea. I said, why not? I can hide. He said, no, seriously. So I've had hugely influential friends, Alan Nielsen, Tony and lots of you here.
Okay, wrap it up now.
And I think for me, you know, one of the reasons I do the things I do for Action for Children and the Prince's Trust is that, you know, I've had moments when I could have made some horrifically bad decisions, and I'm very blessed that I've made some better decisions for the most part, and I've had people to guide me, and that is really, really important to me.
Can I say something? I want to say something. Can we dance?
So I am James's baby sister, and I want to say that he's a pretty amazing brother, and he gave myself and Kath and Patrick our very first jobs. Because James decided that the best way to have a paper round was to subcontract it to younger siblings. Thereby, he got paid 1p a paper to deliver, and we got half a p a paper. And then we all got sacked at different times for not doing the job properly.
What is that?
That's when you haven't got your job anymore. But anyway, I want to tell you a funny story. When I was about 20 and I moved out to America, and there I was in my farm in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by horses and very few people, and it was all just amazing. and this white Cadillac pulls up outside the barn, a very posh car. So this is about 1990, 1991. And out hops my brother. And he goes, all right. Didn't even know he was in the country. So, and he says, well, when are you going to get done with work? And then he took me and all my friends on the farm out for dinner. And I said to him, just out of curiosity, why did you get a Cadillac? And he said, it was the only one with a CD player in it. Yes.
So, that's almost the end of my speech, and I'm just going to say a big love. I love you very much, Charlotte. And that's the end. So I'd like to introduce. We've got the band. So we've got the band tonight is called Mad Hen, and Mad Hen are going to come on hopefully now.